In 1929, the entire medical establishment believed that threading a tube into the human heart would kill you instantly, and a 25-year-old German doctor decided to prove them wrong by doing it to himself in secret. This is Werner Forssmann, and this is the story of the first cardiac catheterization. Welcome back, my curious test subjects, to another episode from the darkest corners of medical history. Today we are talking about a procedure so dangerous that no ethics committee would approve it, no supervisor would allow it, and no sane person would volunteer for it. So, naturally, our protagonist lied to a nurse, betrayed her trust, and performed it on himself in an operating room with nobody watching. The result? He threaded a tube from his arm directly into his beating heart, walked down a flight of stairs while the catheter was still inside him, took an X-ray to prove it worked, and then did it 8 more times over the next few weeks, because apparently once was not enough. And all of this happened before antibiotics were widely available, before modern imaging technology, and before anyone had successfully done this procedure without killing the patient. Let us begin. So let us set the scene, my curious test subjects. It is 1929. Werner Forssmann has just graduated from the University of Berlin Medical School. He is young, ambitious, and utterly convinced that the entire medical profession is wrong about something very important. At that time, physicians believed it was impossible to safely insert any tube into the human heart. The heart was considered untouchable, too delicate, too vital. Threading anything into it would cause immediate cardiac arrest and death. In medical terms, that means if you tried it, you were committing murder or suicide, depending on whose heart you were using. But Forssmann had seen a drawing, just a drawing. French physiologists had passed a thin tube through the jugular vein of a horse into its heart to measure the pressure in the chambers. And Forssmann looked at that image and thought, why not humans? He envisioned a future where doctors could record pressures inside the heart, take blood samples directly from the source, and deliver medication straight to the organ that needed it most. Think of it like trying to perform open-heart surgery in your garage after watching a YouTube tutorial except the tutorial was a drawing of a horse, and everyone with an actual medical degree told you it would kill you. Forssmann brought his idea to his supervisor. The supervisor said no, absolutely not. Forssmann was forbidden from attempting the procedure. In medical terms, that means he had absolutely no approval and zero backup if things went wrong. So Forssmann did what any reasonable person would do. He decided to proceed in secret. Step 1. Find a catheter long and thin enough to reach the heart. Step 2. Find someone who trusts you. Step 3. Lie to them. He befriended a nurse who had access to ureteral catheters. Completely ethical recruitment strategy, obviously. She agreed to be the first person to undergo this experimental procedure. Now you might be wondering, how did the nurse react when she discovered she had been deceived? We are getting there. The nurse obtained the catheter and the operating room. She prepared herself for the insertion. She believed she was about to become the first human being to have a tube threaded into her heart. She trusted Werner Forssmann, and then he inserted the catheter into his own left arm instead. In medical terms, that means he lied to her face until the tube was already in his vein. He threaded the catheter up through the vein in his arm, slowly, carefully. By the time it reached his shoulder, he told her what he had done. Spoiler, she did not take it well, but she also did not stop him. And here is where the story gets genuinely surreal. Together, they walked down a flight of stairs to the radiology room. Werner Forssmann is walking downstairs with a catheter threaded through his arm up to his shoulder, and the nurse is walking beside him, probably wondering how she ended up as an accomplice to this insanity. At fluoroscopic guidance is basically live X-ray video. Imagine trying to thread a piece of spaghetti through your own circulatory system, while watching it on a very blurry monitor that is also slowly irradiating you. Forssmann continued the insertion under fluoroscopy. He pushed the catheter further and further. Catheter in the arm, catheter at the shoulder, catheter in the heart. He threaded it 60 centimeters into his body until it reached his right atrium, one of the chambers of his heart. And Werner Forssmann is still alive. He took an X-ray. He had proof. The medical establishment had been wrong, and Forssmann had just catheterized his own heart in secret. So what do you do after you have successfully catheterized your own heart and survived? If you are Werner Forssmann, you do it 5 more times over the next 4 weeks. He repeated the procedure again and again and again. He published an article describing the catheterization. Then he decided to push the experiment further. He wanted to inject radiopaque material, a substance that shows up bright white on X-rays, directly into the heart to create images of the heart's internal structure. He experimented first on rabbits. They died during the procedure, because apparently killing rabbits was not concerning enough. He had greater success with dogs. Then, he tried the experiment on himself. Again, he inserted a catheter into his heart, using his femoral vein, a large vein in the groin. Then he injected sodium iodide into his own heart. Sodium iodide is what makes your blood vessels show up bright white on X-rays. The same stuff they use today when checking if you are about to have a stroke, except Forssmann injected it directly into his own heart before anyone knew if it was safe. The resulting pictures were not very clear, but they were the first images of a radiopaque substance injected into a living human heart. First, catheterization. Success. Next 5. Also success. Radiopaque injection. Success. Total self-catheterizations. 9. Dead rabbits. Several. Nobel Prizes. 1. Because after all of this, after the deception, the self-experimentation, the repeated procedures, the animal deaths, Werner Forssmann worked in obscurity as a urologist for 27 years. In medical terms, that means he spent decades working on kidneys, while the rest of the world slowly realized he had invented modern cardiology. And then, in 1956, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. And that is how modern cardiac catheterization was invented, by a 25-year-old doctor who lied to a nurse, experimented on himself 9 times, killed several rabbits, worked in obscurity for 27 years, and then won a Nobel Prize. Sometimes medical progress requires not just brilliance, but also a willingness to betray trust. Ignore your supervisor and thread tubes into your own heart before breakfast. Today, cardiac catheterization is one of the most common procedures in modern medicine. Millions of people have had their hearts catheterized to diagnose blockages, measure pressures, and deliver life-saving treatments. And it all started because one German doctor looked at a drawing of a horse and thought, I could do that to myself. The nurse, by the way, was named Gerda Ditzen. History does not record whether she ever forgave him, but her name deserves to be remembered because she was there, in that operating room, when the impossible became possible. If you enjoyed this story of medical audacity and questionable ethics, my curious test subjects, subscribe for more experiments that should probably never have happened. I will be in the lab.